Greetings and welcome to Rice Crypto. I am your host, Rice, and on today's show, I am joined by a returning guest making her 15th appearance on the channel, Lynette Zang. She is the founder and CEO of Zang Enterprises. I will include a link down below in the video description and the pinned comment for the playlist that I created with all of her previous appearances. Now, Lynette Zang was actually the second person that I've ever interviewed on the channel back in April of 2018. And the crazy thing is, those conversations are just as relevant today as they were when we did the interviews. So I definitely encourage you to make sure you're checking those out. I also encourage you to make sure you are subscribed to Lynette Zang's brand new YouTube channel. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me on today's episode of the Rice Crypto Show is a returning guest. She needs no introduction. Today, I am joined by the founder and CEO of Zang Enterprises. Welcome for the 15th time on the show, number 15, Lynette Zang. How are you doing today, Lynette?
Is it really 15, Chris?
It is. It's been since at least mid-2018.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
wow. Well, thank you for having me on again. I'm really happy to be here. You know, you're one of my favorite people. I love you.
Likewise. And I always appreciate your time and I always appreciate the conversations. And normally I kind of come prepared with questions, kind of scenarios that are going on, but I will be completely honest with you, Lynette, as far as what is happening in the world, there's so much happening.
Yes.
That it's really hard to focus in on specific things. And I've also kind of taken a little bit of a step back from things while still trying to pay attention. So I'm not completely engulfed, but I'm still kind of know what's going on. I'm paying attention to the Federal Reserve, what's happening with interest rates, what's happening with inflation, the BRICS nations, our selection process here in the United States for the election of 2024. You've talked about a potential revolution. There is a movie coming out. Today we're recording on the 3rd of April. There's a movie coming out in the next week or two called Civil War. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. And that's a big production movie that they're going to be pushing. We have the border situation here in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
What recently happened with the Francis Scott Key Bridge. You had mentioned to me that you're going to be going to the XRP conference in May in Las Vegas, which I want to kind of get into the crypto stuff, but there's been some changes happening with you and your situation in life. You have a brand new channel. You have Zang Enterprises going on. I want to do a screen share with your brand new YouTube channel. And the first thing I want people to do after they're done watching this interview is to go make sure that if you're not already, subscribe to Lynette's brand new YouTube channel. And then also make sure you're following her over on X at the Lynette Zang. You can also follow her on Instagram. And I'll have links down below. And right now, her website, LynetteZang.com, you can sign up for her mailing list so you can stay tuned for updates. And I'm sure the website will be coming online here soon.
It will. It takes a lot to put a new thing together. But we're working.
It does. And you got a great team, by the way.
I do. I'm very fortunate to have a phenomenal community surrounding me. Very bright.
So like I said, links will be down below. I definitely encourage people to make sure they're subscribed. But tell us, where are we headed with this new direction with Zang Enterprises, with supporting community and sound money globally? I've noticed that you've been talking a lot more about urban farming. You're having other people contribute on the channel, talking about food, gardening, and then you're still doing your obvious explaining about currencies, currency life cycles, what's currently happening in our economic climate, continuing to translate that financial noise. So where are we at with the future?
Wow. Well, look, I can't tell you that the whole thing is going to break down on Tuesday morning at 8:35. But the reality is that we are witnessing the breakdown of a global financial system. And what has me, not concerned, because of course this is what would happen. But since 2008, we've been watching global central bankers move forward in a synchronized manner. Now, and they did that with the rates up. But now, as they're pulling the rates down, some countries are moving their rates up, some countries are moving their rates down. And so you have this division that we see occurring in the global central bank system. And it's already on top of a very fragile, or underpinning is more accurate, really, of a very fragile financial system. So, I think we are in a major danger zone right now. And it isn't just because all the markets are severely overvalued, right? And how much, there are no limitations on how much of this they can do, no limitations. But every time they do that, the value of what's out there goes down. So, I contend that I believe very strongly, actually, that we're at the very beginning part of the hyperinflationary move. The monetary velocity is spiking in a pervasive way. And I believe you and I have talked about that in the past, that I was paying attention to that. And when I see that, that's going to indicate to me that the hyperinflation has begun, because the monetary velocity chart shows the number of times that money changes hands. So, for example, if I have a good week and I was looking at a car, okay, well, now maybe I go out this weekend and I buy a car. And so some of that money that I took in is going out to this other person, this other company. And maybe that salesperson now that sold me the car had a good week because of that, and goes, oh, okay, I could take my wife on this weekend trip that we've been talking about, and they're feeling flush and they leave a big tip, and the waiter goes, oh, now I can buy Jimmy those sneakers. So you see, it's the number of times that money changes hands. And in a hyperinflationary or high inflationary state, people become aware that prices are going up rapidly. And so when they get the money in, they want it to go out as quickly as possible. And so I think that's what we're between watching that spike and now watching the decoupling of the central banks. To me, that puts us in a very big, dangerous space.
Oh, no, I 100% agree. The way you were explaining about the money velocity with hyperinflation, it's like a game of hot potato.
Yes, exactly.
Because you just want to, as soon as you get it, you just want to pass it off, because otherwise that hot potato is going to burn your hand, and you get the drift. Other countries have experienced this. You talked about Zimbabwe, Venezuela, but when I was asking you about the future, the direction that we're headed, I wasn't necessarily getting into the economic climate. I do appreciate you answering that, but I was talking about the new channel, what kind of stuff or can we look forward to with, I guess, Lynette Zang 2.0?
Oh, wow. First of all, I now have no limitations or anybody sitting on my shoulder going, you can't say that, you can't talk about that. That means I get to talk about everything that I think is important. And honestly, when I went to Australia last August, September, I found my voice. And I threw out all the materials that I had prepared for the events, and I just talked about community. And I realized where we are in this trend cycle, that really had to be a tippy top priority. So we are really working hard on building community, helping people build community locally so that they can survive this transition that we just talked about, but also globally so that we can have a voice in the new system that they're putting in place. Because if we don't, and we can do it peacefully, all you have to do is buy gold and silver, right? We vote with our wallets. We vote with our purses. So, to position into a real hard asset that is truly completely outside of the system. So we're still going in that direction because that's your sound money foundation. But what we're really trying to do on our channel is give everybody the tools they need to build that community and or become as self-sufficient and independent as possible, so that they can not just weather this storm that we're already in, whether we realize it or not, but actually thrive through it and come out the other side much better. So yes, we're working diligently on even finding experts in all those. So if any of you are an expert in any part of the mantra, food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter, come and help us build this community and educate people so that they can put their best interest first and be as independent and self-sufficient as possible. So that's really what the focus is. I mean, your foundation is sound money, but you can live without this if you're inside of a community. You cannot live without food and water and all those other mantra pieces.
No, I agree. We definitely need food and we definitely need water. And
Yeah.
I think it's good that you're, I know we've talked about your mantra for years, but your urban farming stuff, which is seeming to be more and more and more important to you.
Yes.
You're putting a lot more focus on that. I can see with the channel. I know before it was split up as far as content, as far as the survive and thrive versus the precious metals element, but now it's kind of all in one place.
Because
why do you find this is so important though?
Well, because I mean, it is. Everybody wants to view this as, well, here's the financials over here and here's everything over here. And it's not true. That's never been the way it's been for me. That's why, I mean, I really look forward to you coming out here so I can actually show you everything that I'm doing. And I'm trying to figure out how to display that, because I started the Urban Garden because of my work in economics and understanding what these currency life cycles look like and how hard that is. And, I really can't stand it when anybody's hungry. I mean, that bothers me deep in my core. And I know that food, and look around, because we're seeing it on a global scale and in this country and everywhere. Food is the single biggest issue for most people during these transitions.
Yeah.
I live in a desert. Water, harvesting water, and so many things that I see, because this whole world has turned into one big trading financial product, right? So really, our channel is focused on developing both local and global communities. And that means that you're going to see me going out a whole lot more and talking to people. Like, you were surprised I was going to do XRP, but it's because the people that are interested in cryptocurrencies, unless they're there for trading purposes, have the same kind of mentality as the people that buy gold. We want to be out of the system. To your point, that's not out of the system. And to my point, Bitcoin is not out of the system either. I mean, let's face it, let's see what's happened with this whole piece. But yeah, this channel, we're evolving it. I'm doing a lot more what I call Yawas. You asked, we answered. So I'm getting to answer, whether it's on the podcasts, if we have overage, or during every Tuesday, I stream live and then I answer questions after that. So, a lot of changes, a lot of things that we are doing different because we really, really, really want people to be able to weather this storm, at least at a reasonable level.
Did you say, when you said Yawa, was that you ask, we answer?
Yes.
Okay, that's an interesting way of putting like an AMA, ask me anything, but I love it. And what's really weird is it's not like a large percentage of people, but I have seen a decent percentage of people, and I can't say what the percentage is, but as far as people who are in finance that also are doing like self-sustainability and urban farming or growing, it's kind of interesting, and it obviously shows, these people are paying attention to what's taking place. And with recent events that we've had going on, especially with the Francis Scott Key Bridge, that's going to cause a lot of issues when it comes to our services or our goods that are going to be transported around the United States. More of this supply chain issue because of ships not being able to leave the harbor, ships not being able to get in the harbor, and it being the second largest, if I understood it correctly, the second largest shipping harbor in the United States.
Yeah, that's what I understand too.
So that's a lot to kind of take in.
Well, it is, but look, if they can create a big enough crisis and people feel pinched enough and they are completely in the system, when the central bank or the one world government. I mean, because what you bring up the supply chain, and I really want to talk about this because I find it so fascinating, and it's not something that I haven't talked about before. But we're watching, like, I was a stockbroker in the 80s when globalization first started. And I thought, I can see some issues with that. And obviously they came to pass. And now a lot of the talk is still on deglobalization everywhere except the monetary system, which is still on that path to a one world system. It is. And they are marching there as quickly as they can. They are, a lot of the central banks, including the Federal Reserve. And it's so, what's going on with the Fed and the Fed coin and the digital dollar. I mean,
Fed coin,
digital dollar.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think it's going to be. I mean, I know it's kind of jumping around in subjects here, but I don't think that they're going to necessarily, the Federal Reserve, issue a digital currency. I think it'll be the banks, and instead of it being a one world currency, I kind of seeing it being an interoperable world of currencies that really are the same thing, just have different faces.
Well, I agree. Here's where you hear my hesitancy, right? Where we saw the Fed rushing to create that CBDC, and we are in the pilot stage and the advanced stage. And in fact, we just signed an agreement, the US did, to test cross-border trade with digital currencies with the CBDC.
There's two different kinds of CBDCs. There's a retail and a I'm not sure. It's wholesale, yeah. So I think that they're working on a wholesale test, and not necessarily something for the people. It's more for the banks.
Correct. Yes, you are correct. But what happened with FTX and then Silicon Valley Bank kind of slowed that down. So there's your point, and that's what I was thinking too, until I saw this morning that we agreed to this cross-border test. So quite honestly, I can't tell you one way or the other whether or not we are bringing out a CBDC or we're not. I know that the SWIFT system is trying to retain its relevance and continue to be a hub. And so that's something for the US since we control that essentially. But if we don't keep pace with China, the EU, and the other governments that are moving there and creating this one world currency. And I also agree with you because they can't just change it. So I think we will indeed have a local currency, and it'll be called the dollar coin or whatever. The dollar will be in its name somewhere because they don't want you to think anything has changed. And then we will have like an overview one. The IMF is creating that universal CBDC. So I still think that it's the IMF's SDR CBDC that's going to be the universal one, just because it makes the most logical sense and they've had the reach the broadest. But so I don't know what to think about whether or not the U.S. is going to participate in this or not. The Bank for International Settlements recently came out with a piece on how the U.S. is falling behind. And what does that do to the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency, but further smash it into the ground because of all of the cross-border trade? You don't need dollars to do that anymore. So that artificial market is gone, essentially.
No, and it's interesting that we're getting to talk about these central bank digital currencies, the tokenization of assets, real world assets. We're going at, obviously, BlackRock, Larry Fink, he's been talking about the future of finances, tokenization. That's taken us into a completely crazy world. When you mentioned SWIFT trying to remain relevant, SWIFT has partnered up with a cryptocurrency project called Chainlink. Chainlink is an Oracle-based service that does communication. Some people even think that Sergey Nazarov, the founder, he's a potential candidate for a possible Satoshi Nakamoto. There's a lot of really weird, interesting things that interconnect. But the fact that they're doing these Oracle services to allow for communication between blockchains and traditional kind of Web 2 elements and things to that effect, is something that's very much needed in the space, and they're pretty much partner with everybody. So I see Swift making themselves work. Then we also have the ISO 20022, which I think is more of a compliance of keeping everything interoperable by using these bridges. So that way, if you have US dollar coin and Mexico coin, then you could easily just exchange them, and just they're basically the same thing. It's just a token with a different name, but it's an interoperable system. And I think that whether it's BRICS trying to create a new asset, a new currency, whether it's the US dollar, whether it's the euro, they're all going to have this underlying technology that allows them to interconnect. And that's what, to me, the ISO 20022 is like a bridge for compliance, because this is stuff that we've been dealing with for cryptocurrency as a test bed for all this coming up. And it's quite interesting to pay attention to. And I do want to talk about tokenization of assets here in just a moment, but you mentioned that you're going to be going to the XRP conference event in Las Vegas, which, if you're going to be there, there is a potential possibility I may try to work something out to come out. I think at the end of May, I'm going to be in Austin for Consensus, which is a big, huge cryptocurrency conference. It's probably the biggest just regular cryptocurrency conference in the United States, Consensus. And it's happening, I think, the 28th, 29th, somewhere around that of May in Austin, Texas. And they'll have a variety of people, like politicians out there speaking, a lot of pro crypto politicians and things to that effect. Sergey Nazarov, the guy from Chainlink, is going to be there speaking. One of the founders from Solana is going to be there speaking. And then I'm going to be at the Bitcoin and Litecoin conferences happening the end of July in Nashville. But I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts now on crypto, and why are you choosing to go to the XRP event?
That's a good question. First of all, the key reason why I'm going to that crypto event, aside from the fact that there's always similar thought process, is the community piece of what I do, because we have to come together to have a voice. And if we don't, we're not going to have any voice. And it's great that everybody's following everything, but I really feel like we need to have a voice in the new system. So that's actually why I'm going to this event, and will happily do other events, right? I mean, you can't say everything is all bad and everything is all good. We are inside of a transition. And if we want to have a voice in that, what it looks like on the other side of this transition, then we need to come together in community. And I don't care what your focus is, unless you're for big government and complete central bank control. We all have to come together, even if we don't agree on everything. That's fine, right? I love hearing different voices. And for me, this is going to be a very interesting event. It's not the crypto event that I've done, though.
It's not the first one?
No, I did one with Mark Moss,
okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Or something.
Market Disruptors.
Yeah, that also was in Vegas. I don't remember what it was called, actually, but it was Mark Moss's event. I like him too.
Do you own any cryptocurrencies at this point?
Nope.
Okay. Well, you're being honest. You're being honest.
Being absolutely honest. And I can also be honest and say that I don't think that will always be true. I don't know who's going to survive this debacle, right? Once I'm clear on that, I mean, we're still at the beginning stages of it. And you see lots of speculation in lots of areas, quite honestly. So I just want to see who survives, and then I'll make my choices, and I'll talk to you, because you definitely know a lot more about crypto. And in fact, we'll have a conversation afterwards. Maybe you can help our audience understand it better, and help me understand it even better.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, I definitely would love to be able to help answer any questions that you have, and help out anybody, because I think the thing about cryptocurrency that one thing you did say that I did trying to say is that there is a lot of similarities between the gold bugs and the crypto people, the precious metal people.
Why do you call us gold bugs?
Well, that's just a term that's used. Then I also followed it up with crypto people versus, or precious metals people versus crypto people. What was that?
How about stock snakes?
Stock snakes. I like that one.
I think that works much better, right? And it's more accurate.
But the thing about this is it's a technology, it's a tool, so it's not inherently bad or good. It's how it's being utilized.
Exactly.
Yeah, and as an example, what I believe Satoshi Nakamoto, the individual or the group, was trying to create with Bitcoin is not what Bitcoin is today, and especially like what's happening to Bitcoin today.
Right.
So
I mean, it's completely adopted into the system, is it not? Am I wrong?
Well, I look at it as kind of trying to take it over and throttle it even more than it's being throttled, because the Bitcoin in its current state right now is not really a threat to the dollar or the fiat system. Yeah. But a scaled up Bitcoin that could actually take the throughput and deal with a large amount of people would actually be a threat. So keeping it limited on purpose is a way to not have Bitcoin actually be fully the threat that it was designed to be. And if you have BlackRock and all these other financial institutions talking about donating a portion of their profits to the Bitcoin development team, I don't know if you've heard this.
I didn't hear this.
So there's a Bitcoin core team, and you can only imagine if BlackRock and all these other guys are going to be offering them money, if they would be able to influence how Bitcoin is developed in the future. So Bitcoin, in a sense, to me, has been co-opted. Now, that doesn't mean that there can't be other coins that can enact in that ability and get us away from the central bank government control that I think cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin specifically, was designed for. But with just having said that, what are your thoughts on the fact that BlackRock, TradFi are embracing Bitcoin and now have this financial instrument that we call ETFs being attached to Bitcoin, when you could actually just, I'm pretty sure you don't like gold ETFs. I'm pretty sure you don't own gold ETFs.
That would be true.
But yeah, I'm just curious because this gives legitimacy to Bitcoin.
It gives market legitimacy to Bitcoin. And so, I mean, you make an assumption which may or may not be accurate, and then I make an assumption which may or may not be accurate, because your assumption was that it was created to go outside of the system. My assumption is that it was created to generate commonality, so people get comfortable with it, stay away from, physical gold, and go into the crypto space. And so that it makes it easier with enough adoption. It makes it easier for them to transition us into CBDCs. At least that's the theory, because when they're going to make a transition into a new monetary system, they need to keep it looking as normal as possible. So one of us is going to be right. Maybe it's a combination of the two. But I am not surprised that it was taken over, because they've now created, and look at them, look at Wall Street. They always have to have the next hot thing. So this thing sizzles, driving up prices, and then something else over here sizzles, driving up prices before they're really ready to. So there's always got to be a hot thing. But in the crypto space, I mean, what if I'm right? Right?
I mean, definitely. I mean, I put a lot of thought into this. I mean, whether it was created as a government tool, I believe it was the CIA or FBI. I think of CIA that released a white paper back in the 90s called "How to Mint." Actually, David Schwartz, who is one of the main players of Ripple, the company behind XRP, worked for the CIA, and he's a cryptographer. So I don't know if he had anything to do with that particular white paper or not. So there's a lot of really interesting things that obviously with the cryptocurrency space, and as far as Bitcoin is concerned, there's been a lot of infiltration from the very beginning, even from state agents trying to come in and help change the narrative of development to cause problems. Because in Bitcoin, in the theory that thinking that it was created to get us out of the system. The idea of what it is too much of a threat. So they need to do everything that they can to keep it limited. And I think that's also part of the reason why we have all these different cryptocurrencies. It dilutes the market for one, and it takes attention away from the real thing that can actually cause the damage. And even as far as we've been in this space, Bitcoin is still the most decentralized, has the most hash power. There's the even dominance of ownership of all the cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin still has over 50% of the market share. So its antiquated dinosaur technology still works out very well.
But let's also say that if you have a cryptocurrency, and yes, you could put on a thumb drive, you could go anywhere in the world. What if the government won't let you convert it? Right? Whereas with gold in any form or silver in any form, you can be anywhere in the world and convert it into whatever that currency is anywhere. So
well, if you don't want to convert it, you can always do peer-to-peer with the cryptocurrency. Same way you would with gold, except for handing the physical item, you'd transfer said cryptocurrency to another person's wallet. So if we were just interacting in just the cryptocurrencies and not looking for the exit, because that, for me personally, I don't want dollar bills.
Well, no, you might need them. I mean, the only reason to convert them, let's say gold goes to 40 grand. Are you going to convert it at 40 grand? Only if you need to pay off a mortgage, and you're going to convert it and you're going to use it. And I would look at that the same way, right?
Okay.
The only reason you're going to convert back into that currency is because you need that currency for something specific. Because everybody, I'm sure, well, I'm not sure, but everybody should be really well aware that the central banks, their job is really to control inflation, and they are out of tools. It's their printing press and the interest rates. That's what they have. And, we're in a really, again, this diversion between the central banks on a global basis is not a very good thing. I mean, the Swiss central bank just lowered the rates. They're the first advanced economy to lower rates. Do they really need to lower rates because they've controlled inflation, or because their economy is cracking? And do they really don't want the economy? I found this the other day so interesting, and I'm sorry I'm kind of going this way. It's just to kind of where we are, is that Powell said that he could pivot if the employment issue, if that cracks. So if employment spikes, he's going to turn around and pivot and lower rates when he raised the rates to create unemployment. They don't know what they're doing. They're talking out of both sides of their mouths. So you did create this mess to begin with all the money for free and creating all of the bubbles so that you had enough time, the system had enough time, government, central banks, to create a brand new financial system based on, technology. And in everything, there's good and bad. You just want to make sure, I just want to make sure, you do whatever you want. I just want to make sure that I have the kind of sound money, and that sound money is part of the system. And when all confidence is lost by the public, that's exactly what happens.
No, you're right. And I mean, I've been saying it's like with where the banks are at, all the central banks, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. We're at the end of this fiat cycle, but the problem is they don't have an adequate replacement for us yet.
We're working on it.
They're just going to keep things afloat as much as possible until they can, have something for us to switch over to, because otherwise it's going to be a lot more chaotic. And I think that they're able to handle things, but it's just like, it seems like, I mean, I've said this to you for years. It seems like one more thing is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, but it just seems like the camel is a mutant and can just take whatever's being thrown on its back, because it's seemingly is keeping everything afloat. I mean, people are actually questioning whether or not we're going to go into a recession.
There are people that are still in the recession from 2008, let alone from 2020. Are we going to go into a recession? You've got 20 states that have their unemployment levels signaling that they are already in recession. But if it's not called an official recession, so even though it seems like things are being held together, all we get to see is the tippy top of the iceberg. What's happening underneath the surface that we cannot see, that's what's going to take this system down. And that's why it's so important to be prepared. And I mean, I don't think diversification is a bad thing. Whatever wealth you're going to put into cryptos, just like any wealth that you'd put into any other intangible asset, stocks, bonds, ETFs, whatever, just properly diversify your portfolio with something that's tangible. Right? And then that way, if this right now, undervalued, overvalued, that's going to flip flop. If you can hold your purchasing power intact, the opportunities to buy the cryptocurrencies that are outside of that. I love it. And you
silver, copper, all that good stuff. I mean, I think it's and I own crypto and I own precious metals. I've been saying that for years.
That you shouldn't. I'm just very conservative. And
I respect it. I respect it. I mean, you've been studying currencies since 1987 and how the life cycles work. So, I mean, I completely understand your perspective. And that's why I enjoy our conversations. I'm glad that we can speak a lot more freely about it and kind of get your more raw thoughts. Before we kind of get back into the TradFi stuff, I wanted to get your thoughts real quick about the tokenization. It's pretty much the tokenization of everything.
Yes.
And I even heard, I was going to ask, I don't have any actual contact with Gregory Mannarino. I've tried getting him on the show, but I can't ever get a response. And he mentioned something.
He does my show because we're such good friends, but he doesn't do a lot of shows. He doesn't do a lot of interviews.
Well, he mentioned something, and I can't remember where his source was, and I was trying to find it about the TradFi system, talking about tokenizing everything, tokenizing nature, tokenizing the air, potentially tokenizing people.
Right.
And that kind of goes into an element of things that I've been looking at as far as how do I explain this to you? The legal fictions, some people call it the sovereign citizen movement. There's some underlying things where in that movement, and I don't like the term sovereign citizen because it's a very much an oxymoron, but the idea that people are talking about that we have been turned into chattel, that our birth certificates and our social security numbers, they're bond instruments, that they're traded, that this is the underlying assets that backs the entire system. When we talk about everything being backed by our labor, it's right. People are talking about trading us on some sort of exchange. And then I hear Gregory Mannarino talking about this tokenization of people, which can kind of go into like social credit, where people could bet against like what you're going to do, how successful you're going to be. And the idea that this could have been happening. I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on this whole idea of tokenization of everything?
Well, I think we started talking about this when you and I first met, because I think the first time I talked about it was 2015 with the SDR that wants to be in control of it and break all of your, there are a few parts to the tokenization. And like everything, there are good parts and there are bad parts. So we're just going to talk about, we'll start with the bad parts, right? Because what they can do is they can take any equity that you have, forget people for the moment, but take like equity in your home or whatever other assets you hold and break them down into itty bitty pieces, and they're all held on your phone. And since they employ in their perception management program, they employ the most brilliant minds possible in psychiatry, psychology, they can that's called nudging, nudge you in the direction that you want. And hey, look, we've been trained to think of things shorter term. You're holding a whole bunch of wealth on your phone, making it easy. They encourage you to spend your wealth. And because the tokenization can travel anywhere in the world, now you've got somebody in China owning all the equity in your house. And if you're the one that spent your equity, who can you complain to? Doesn't matter that you were encouraged to do that. I've seen that so many times when people have taken on the burden, like with Amazon, right? Coming in and killing mom and pops, and mom and pops are struggling to survive. And then if they go bankrupt, they go, oh, well, it was all me. I feel bad. I feel guilty. When in reality, the system allowed that to happen and set it up to happen. Right? Because mom and pops have to make a profit. They got to pay their taxes. Amazon did not have to make a profit or pay taxes until that whole arena was devastated. So I look at tokenization the same way that I look at that, is they want you to make those choices so that you look in the mirror instead of going, look at what they did. So that's the bad of it. Even I'm not really quite sure. I mean, I know they can tokenize air and water because all of those vehicles, water, air, food, everything has been turned into a trading product right now. Anyway, we're at a level of full financialization. So in order for the system, the financial system I'm talking about, to grow and morph even more, these tokens would give a lot of people a whole lot more trading vehicles.
It's like an expansion, a credit expansion.
Pardon me?
Wouldn't it be like a credit expansion?
Yes, it would absolutely be like a credit expansion.
Which the Bitcoin ETF allows for that as well.
Right. And all of the leverage in the system. And, they're saying also, it's also a shift in what is considered collateral, because if everything is tokenized and it's all on a blockchain, then maybe they don't need the collateral anymore. So now all of these big bets and how they can trade your wealth and your equity and everything that you've put together. So it really, I can see it leading into the WEF, you will own nothing.
That's what I was thinking about. I was actually going to do it with the whole accent and everything.
Yeah, go ahead, do it.
You will own nothing and be happy.
There you go. But the flip side of that is that if you're aware and you're conscious and you have a plan, then perhaps, and this is really what my work is about, a lot of it, translating that financial noise so you can make educated choices that actually put your best interest first. It would make it easier to accumulate wealth. It's just that the masses won't be aware of that. So there is a balance in there. And yeah, I don't know how they're going to sell me and get me to go along with it. I'm going to take a look at that, though.
They'll put me and you in a camp. I think we're going to go to like summer camp forever summer camp for the people who don't want to participate and don't want to cooperate. Now, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with this, but and I wasn't even thinking about asking you about this, but just based off what we're talking about, that book and the documentary, and I forget the guy's name, The Great Taking.
Oh, yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I gave somebody... I used to have it up there, but yes, this is what I've been talking about forever, right?
David Webb, just so I make sure I give the right credit.
Thank
David
you.
Webb is the one who wrote the book.
Right.
And he became a farmer too.
Well, hello. Because we have to be as independent and self-sufficient as possible, or you're not going to have any choices. But that goes back to the community piece, doesn't it? Because I've been working on my urban farm since 2010. And I have a bug out location, and I'm fortunate enough to have a community around me that can execute what needs to be executed. However, not everybody has that luxury. So, and the luxury of time. Look at how much time I've spent on it. And frankly, Chris, even though I'm as prepared as anybody I know, more prepared than most people I know, because it's been a conscious effort for 14 years to prepare for this. I didn't think I'd see it in my lifetime, but here it is. I don't feel fully ready yet. I mean, if something happened tomorrow, yes, I could accommodate and feed 40 people up at my bug out location. I've been working on that for a long time. But I would still have right now a lot of people sleeping on my floors, which is not ideal. So I would like more time, but I don't know how much time we have. This is why if you bring a skill set, you come together in community, whether you're in a high rise in a city or you're out in suburbia or you're in a remote bug out location. And if you do come, we can in May or any other time, we can figure out so that you can not just see the urban farm down here, but I'll take you to my bug out location and we can film.
Oh, I thought they were one and the same. I didn't know they were two different spots.
Oh, no. I am in dead central Phoenix here in my urban farm. Because
okay. I thought you were doing your urban farming. I know you started it where you were living in Phoenix, but I thought you were like migrating it all over to your bug out spot.
No. Now, look, could I bug out? I'm in dead central Phoenix. So, I mean, I have a tremendous amount of security on the property so that if I need to be gone for a block of time, or quite honestly, I use it on a daily basis when I'm here too, and I shut down this property, nobody's getting in this property. But do I really want to be holed up inside of here? No. And to be really honest with you, I was not successful. I know this is going to seem odd to a lot of people, but putting in an alternative energy system, a solar system, was like the first thing I did. And quite honestly, it's been a big fat fail. But up at my bug out location, I am completely off grid. So, and I have Starlink. So I have great communication up there, and I have a lot of property up there, and it is hard to get to. It's very, very remote. So no, two different places.
Okay.
Food and everything. I
thought it was one big compound. I didn't realize it was two different places.
Nope.
I remember you were telling me like where you live in Phoenix, you had converted your swimming pool into a garden, right?
Into a pond, into an aquaponic swimming pond. So yes, I have floating islands where we grow food. And lots of fish in there, and there's no chemicals in the water. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to figure out if I can't make it in May. I'm definitely going to coordinate. I definitely want to come out. I told you I have multiple reasons to come out. So
yep, we'll figure it out.
I do want to be respectful of your time, and I do want to be able to continue some of these things in future conversation. Just for the moment, I guess, as a wrap up, and it's not really a short thing here, but the Federal Reserve, a lot of people are speculating like what they're going to be able to do. I mean, in a way, I really feel sorry for Jerome Powell because it's like he didn't create this mess, and he's looking more and more awful when he's doing these FOMC meetings. The question and answering is just getting to be a joke. It looks like inflation is not going away. Looks like we may be getting higher forms of inflation, which some people are speculating that the Federal Reserve would have to hike interest rates. But then people are expecting they were expecting 3. Now they're expecting potentially 2 rate cuts. And then there's a lot of people talking about the money printer is going to have to get turned right back on too. So it's like, I'm not sure what's going to happen first, but what are your thoughts about what the Federal Reserve is doing and how long can they really maintain this but without people getting pissed?
$1 zillion question, isn't it? How long can they maintain this dance? And also the assumption is they want to maintain the dance, but I speculate that they only want to maintain the dance for as long as they need to until they are ready enough to shift us into the new system. And therein lies the rub, because with the system cracking, with all of the debt that has to be restructured or reset into the new much higher interest rates, we're seeing a lot more bankruptcies and corporate bankruptcies and problems. So they want to lower the rates for that to stimulate, to have this free money machine inflate all of these assets up. But if they raise the interest rates into this debt wall, this huge, humongous mountain, and this is true globally, of debt that has to be restructured into new debt. Yeah, I mean, that's just the US debt clock. But, you know, the global debt clock is even bigger. So if they lower the rates to support or create fewer bankruptcies, well, then guess what happens? Because, oh, shocking, inflation is sticky. Yeah, duh. And wow, Janet Yellen just can't understand why the public just know that the economy is doing so well. It's those darn food prices. And the fact that people go to the grocery store on a regular basis, and when they move really quickly, they notice. So, you know, it's the same thing with the shifting between the global central banks. And now it's really obvious. I've been saying forever they're between a rock and a hard place. But now it's obvious why they are between a rock and a hard place. No matter what they do, we are at the end. If they can postpone it for another year, maybe I can get some of those rammed earth houses put in place so not everybody has to sleep on my floor. I mean, I do have some other spaces, but I can't tell you that they can do it anymore. I don't know. Maybe they'll pull something else out of their house, out of their hats, and have things continue. I don't know. We're at the end. I mean, that I'm 100% certain, having studied currencies forever. There's my Angus. I'll be seeing him this weekend.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to watch this video to find out about what these rammed earth houses are. I'll have to check it out. I don't want to take your time from the interview, so I'll definitely watch this, and I encourage people to watch it as well.
Right, because a lot of people, there are people that have gone to remote locations, and it's like, it's very hard to bring materials to my bug out location, but we have a lot of the materials on site, and other people might also have like materials that all they have to do is add some concrete to it. And now they've got some stabilized, you know, dirt, clay. We have like clay fields where I am, and different formations, etc. And check out rammed earth houses because they're a lot less expensive to build, especially if you have a lot of the materials on site. They maintain a regular temperature inside out, summer, winter. The Great Wall of China is rammed earth, and look at how long that has lasted. So yeah, it's a really nice alternative, and we plan on showing people how we're doing it as we get to do that. So
that's very cool.
We have enough time before the everything collapses to get a few of them built. I'm looking to do 10, but I'll be happy with whatever I get. First one's a dormitory.
You can, at least get some inflatable beds and let people blow up their own bed. And I think that
I have lots of those.
Worst case scenario.
I do. I have lots of those. I have a couple fifth wheels. I've got a guest cottage. I mean, I can accommodate 40 people. I've got yurts, you know, so I can accommodate like 40 people right now. It just wouldn't be as comfortable as I would like it to be, mostly for me.
Yeah, I know, but if we're talking about like Mad Max or end of the world kind of stuff, I don't think comfort is going to be something a lot of people are going to be seeking. Well, I mean, you might want it, but I don't think comfort necessarily is going to be it's surviving. I think is obviously going to be the big thing.
But you know, I mean, this is the part about I keep going back to community, and that's why it's become such a big focus for me, because they're surviving, and we don't know how long that situation might even last. But like up at the bug out, I try and do like I put up a game, a swing set. You know, we've got lots of games up there. Because you can't just survive. Yes, you're going to have to work. You're going to have to grow food. Last year, I put in a kitchen orchard and a production orchard because we're going to feed as many people as we can, since food is the biggest issue. It's going to be interesting for me to see what survived this spring. We're still getting snow there, so I don't think we're quite ready for that yet.
Wow.
But yeah, it's more than survival. I mean, you have to have some fun. You have to be able to laugh, and you have to be able to find, like, we have doctors, we have teachers, we have farmers, we have engineers, we have electricians, we have carpenters. We have a variety of skill sets, and so that's what a community does, because one person cannot do it all by themselves. But together, not only can we survive this, we can thrive through it. We can laugh and be happy. I mean, I don't want to be miserable. I want to take care of my babies, I want them to be happy. Plus the fact that if the babies are not happy, nobody's happy.
So true. So true. One last thing I want to ask you with the Federal Reserve, with the questions about what's happening with the interest rates, is what do you think is going to be, like, just based off of you studying currencies and currency cycles since 1987? Like, what do you think is going to happen first? Are they going to drop interest rates and start printing money? Or
they're really, I think that what happens first, and this actually makes it so simple for people, there's only one way to fight deflation. So stock market implosion, which JP Morgan is talking about being imminent, a stock market implosion, lots of unemployment, a bond market implosion, a real estate market implosion, like what we're seeing in China, these kinds of things, those are all deflationary. And there's only one way to fight deflation, and that's with inflation. So I think we're going to experience deflation first, which is not going to lead them any choice but to drop interest rates and print the Hades out of money. And as we've seen since QE in 2008, it takes more and more and more and more and more and more money, new money, to get less and less and less and less and less impact. So we're getting to a point where I think right now we're pushing on a string. It's just, will the public notice? Because that is the last vestige of confidence in this big Ponzi scheme. And rapid inflation erodes that rapidly. And there's not that much left to begin with. So look how much they focus on confidence, consumer confidence, this confidence, inflation, all of this. And Powell even said it in a recent speech that I listened to him, and said, look, if people believe that we're going to have 2% inflation, we'll have 2% inflation. So it's that confidence. It's not, I think Henry Kissinger said, it's not what's true that counts. It's what is perceived to be true that counts. And I'm not so sure. Well, maybe that is accurate, right? Maybe that is accurate, which also means when they lose confidence and they believe that those that are currently in power have no idea how to guide us, then all confidence is lost and we're in hyperinflation in earnest that everybody else gets to see. The beauty of the technicals is it gives you a little heads up. The beauty of understanding the patterns of a currency life cycle is that it gives you a heads up. So you can get into position ahead of time. I definitely would rather be, I don't care if I'm 10 years too early. I just don't want to even be 1 second too late, because then I lose all my choices.
So a curious question is, do you have a precious metals company or anything that you have partnered up with that you're working with at this time?
I don't.
I didn't know if, like, you were recommending, because I know you tell people to buy gold and silver. I didn't know if there was a place that you were recommending, because I'm not currently working with anybody.
This is what I can say to that. Everybody's got to do what they're comfortable doing. And I am definitely talking a lot more about the strategy, because everybody everywhere in the world needs to have a strategy and based on reality. So at this moment in time, I am not selling gold and silver, but that is not going to be true very much longer. I just
Okay.
can't say, I just can't reveal it just yet.
I got you. I got you. I mean, I know that when there's, there's contracts and stuff that sometimes there's certain things you can't do within certain periods of times and things to that effect, but definitely keep us up to date, because I always trust your opinions and where and where your head is at and which organizations and entities that you're supporting.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But who I work for is I work for the people the viewers. That's who I work for. That's who I do everything for. That was
Right.
one thing that was never really understood before, but I have been groomed for this moment in time, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but I do it for the viewers, period. So, I think everybody, definitely you got to have gold and silver, and you should definitely also be buying it from a reputable company. I am not selling it today, but that's not going to be true for very much longer.
Cool. Like I said, just keep me up to date and we'll work something out about, like I said, me coming out in the next few months and visiting and getting a look at the multiple properties, seeing the urban farming and seeing your bug out. I'm really looking forward to that. And again, I appreciate your time. I'm looking forward to Lynette Zang 2.0. That's what I'm calling it. We have the new YouTube channel. So again, if you guys aren't subscribed, make sure you go over, support the channel, subscribe to the brand new Lynette Zang YouTube channel. This will be linked down below in the video description. And I will also put this as well as all of her social media links in the pinned comment as well. So follow her on the X at Lynette Zang. We'll also have her Instagram account, and you can sign up for her mailing list so you can stay up to date on all things Zang Enterprises. Miss Lynette, thank you again for joining me. You got any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
No, it's just stop procrastinating and make sure that you're properly diversified and build that community. You can go to farmers markets, you can go to meetups, you can go to your neighbors. You don't have to talk to them about what you see happening but you can build that relationship and get to know the people that grow your food. Whether it's meat or dairy or vegetables, go to the farmers markets, give them a day, give them a few hours, create that relationship so that when push comes to shove and there's only a limited amount of food available, that you're the first person that they think of. I think it's really important, because if you can't do it yourself, and you can't, I can't do it, all by myself. I know people think I do. I don't. I don't.
I like that you said, though, what we put in our body is going to affect how our body is. So we need to make sure that we are eating good foods. And if you know where your food's coming from, that definitely helps. And in my area, there's a local market that's a co-op. I think there's actually two. And then we have farmers markets and things like that. So yeah, I definitely encourage people to make sure they're checking that kind of stuff out, because I think that's really important.
Go to the source, because you need the relationship with whoever is creating your food. You need to have that one-on-one relationship. They need to know your face.
Very true. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. If you could bear with me 1 second. Again, I want to have links down below for everything we talked about on today's show. Make sure you subscribe to Lynette Zang's brand new YouTube channel. I'm going to also have a link for the playlist with all of Lynette's previous appearances on this channel. So be sure to check that out. A lot of great information. It's still very, very, very relevant. Even our very first conversation back in 2018 is so relevant to what we're talking about today. So be sure to check those out. And before we wrap things up, as always, I encourage you to be a blessing to others, treat people how you want to be treated, be the glitch that you want to see in this matrix, be the change that you want to see in the world. And until next time, get outside, touch grass. Don't forget to visit ricetvx.com, where you can watch both of my YouTube channels, Rice Crypto and Rice Against the Grain, directly. Find all of my social media links, sign up for my mailing list, and become a member of Rice Uncensored, where you can join me on the private side for less than $0.25 a day. You will get early access to both Rice Crypto and Rice Against the Grain, ad-free, unedited videos, exclusive content, members-only forum with direct access to me, live streams, and more to come, only at ricetvx.com.